If you're a hockey player and you keep panicking with the puck every time you get it, watch this video. The problem is that you want to make more plays, right? That's really your goal here. You want to be a more offensive forward. You want to be a more offensive defenseman. You want to start to bring more of an offensive component to your game. But you find that you're scared to make plays and you keep panicking every time you get the puck, even though you want to be more offensive. Do you feel like you're not confident consistently? Do you not believe in yourself? Do you find yourself dumping the puck away when you get it? Do you find yourself just passing it away? Do you find yourself being really good in practice and you work really hard and you train really hard? You shoot tons of extra pucks, you do the extra workouts, and even though you do all that stuff, even though you have the skill set and the physical ability, you have the ability to make great plays, you've made great plays before, you're still not making consistently great plays. And you can't figure out, okay, why am I not doing it? How do I fix this? I'm going to show you how to fix the problem, get more points, play more offensively, and start letting yourself play free. But you have to stick with me and really buy into what I'm saying here, because this is not going to be the cliche type stuff. This is going to be deeper rooted psychology that most people are not going to tell you because it gets a little weird. It's also kind of abstract, but I'm going to teach it to you. But if you have to listen to me, you have to really buy in, and I'll break it down in really simple terms. So let's do it. The first place we want to look is at the ego. And I want to talk about the ego because the ego is fundamentally this thing that everybody talks about, and it's really hard to define. But I think that this symbol really captures it very well. I like to think of the ego as basically the source or the idea of I am. The ego is the thing in your head. It's the voice in your head that says, I am this, I am that. And why does it matter for a hockey player? Because the ego is the thing that's saying, I am a great hockey player, I am a bad hockey player. And then the ego, what it does is it communicates to your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind essentially is kind of like a hard drive, or it's like a piece of paper. In a lot of ways, it's more like a blank slate. There's lots of arguments of maybe it's not just the blank piece of paper. But if you think about it really simply, you can just think your subconscious mind, right? So if you think of your brain here, right? I like to just split it up into two. You have your ego up here, which is the voice in your head. And then you have the subconscious, which I'll just put sub here. Your ego makes sound up here, and that eventually programs it. Then you have events that happen in your life. So this is environment, right? And those events, maybe you score a goal, and it tells your subconscious mind, hey, you just scored a goal. It's a memory. It gets stored in there. Something bad happens, a traumatic event. It gets stored in there. So it gets stored in your subconscious mind. Why I want to talk about the ego specifically, why this is so important, is because when we think about what does it mean to actually deal with the ego, a lot of times people think it's just people who are being really cocky and overconfident. But no, the ego is actually protective. The ego is trying to protect you, and it creates this basically these layers or this shell around you. And why this is so important is because this shell that's being created to protect you might seem good if your goal is to play safe, it's to play simple, it's to avoid big mistakes, then yeah, that shell is great. But the problem is you create all these layers around you, which basically lock you in to being this kind of limited player. You create this shell and you feel this tension, this weight on you. It's because the ego is trying to essentially say, okay, in the past, bad things have happened, or in the future, bad things might happen. So we need to make sure we protect ourselves by doing less, by limiting what we can do. It's going to have you avoid making plays. It's going to have you avoid being in the spotlight because it doesn't want to get hurt. It wants to keep you safe. Being safe is not what you want if you want to expand yourself as a player. Now, if you're trying to break out and be a more offensive player, then you need to learn how to unlock that for yourself. You have to move beyond it, removing the barriers. You have to remove the layers of ego that are basically weighing you down and making you slower in games because you're not able to get into a flow state. When you're in your head, when you're thinking, when you're nervous, when you're not confident, it's because these things are making you insecure. Your ego is trying to protect you. It's saying, well, don't do that because you might face danger. You might get hurt. And this was good when there were lions out there and we had to protect ourselves from things that were very obviously dangerous. So if you went and there was a sound in a bush, it's better to run away just in case than it is to say, probably nothing. In order to get past this, you have to learn how to strip these layers away. You have to expose yourself to risk. And I'm going to explain this in a way that should make sense, is you basically have these two pieces. So you have the idea of you can expose. You need to be willing to expose yourself to risk. You have to allow yourself to not be perfectly safe, and you have to allow yourself to make mistakes. And this sounds almost too simple. And it also probably sounds like a bad thing. Like, I don't want to allow myself to make mistakes. But in order to take risks, in order to get outcomes you want, you have to expose yourself to things that may not work. If you're going to do things that are difficult, you have to do things that may not lead to the outcome you want. There's a chance it won't work. Being safe is essentially doing things that you are super confident in. If we think of confidence, sometimes we think of confidence as being willing to do all these really crazy moves and try all these things. But if you think about what confidence allows us to do, when we think of it that way, confidence really allows us to try things that are actually risky. We're exposing ourselves. If you really wanted to do something where we were certain it was going to go the way we wanted, we would be protecting ourselves and keeping ourselves safe, which is why I think confidence and the way we define it a lot of times is kind of wonky. I'm not really sure if we have a really good definition of it. The way I like to define and think of confidence is the willingness to expose yourself to risk, and it's the willingness to know it may not work and I will handle it because I don't have this ego that's trying to protect me. I've stripped away the layers and I've learned how to actually break this away. And now I expose myself to potential risk. You get rewarded for the risks that you take. So if you want to start to get more rewards, you have to realize that risk must happen. And why we don't take risk is because fundamentally we are either consciously scared and we know logically, hey, if I try that thing, I might screw up. I might not get the contract I want. Right? If you're a professional, you may not get the money you want because you screwed it up. You may not get the ice time you want. Your coach may yell at you if you're a younger player or older player. It's because you are scared of the risk. Now, going back to this conscious subconscious idea, we may consciously know there's nothing to be scared of, right? So we may consciously say, yes, I'm safe. But subconsciously, we may be thinking risk. We may think this is bad, this is dangerous. We may think whatever the play is, if I toe drag that guy, I'm taking too much risk. So even consciously, you're like, no, we can do that. Let's try it. Let's take the risk. So we say, oh, I feel safe. But subconsciously, you have learned and wired your brain to say, no. Risk. Don't do it. Danger. Stay away from that. And this is what we need to learn to unwire. Now, how do you learn to unwire it? Well, first, you want to learn something I call state shifting. People in hypnosis will call this a hypnotic trance. I like to think of it as shifting your state. And basically what you want to learn to do is you want to learn how to actually tap into your subconscious mind. Getting into your subconscious mind, learning how to actually get into lower brainwave states, has been shown that you can start to actually kind of program subliminally. You can brainwash yourself essentially to start to have different beliefs about things. We see this with hypnotherapy, where a hypnotherapist can actually take a person and help them to actually start to break a habit or a belief about themselves, like I'm a smoker, right? If you think about where that belief comes from, consciously you may not want to do it anymore. So someone might not want to smoke. This is a cigarette here, right? Consciously they say, no, I'm fine. I don't need it. But subconsciously there's something there. There's a craving. There's a desire. So what we need to learn to do is get into that deeper state. We need to learn how to get into our subconscious mind. And the best place to start learning this, meditation. Because meditation allows us to do two core things. One, meditation allows us to look at our conscious mind and say, what is the content of my ego? What is my ego saying? And we can start to break these conscious beliefs, these things that our ego is just saying, like, I can't do it, I'm not good enough. So that's the first layer. If you can just attack the conscious mind and remove that as a block, now you have a positive self-talk in your head. You have confident thoughts. Then you can start to make better decisions if your subconscious mind doesn't have negative programming. But if you have negative subconscious programming, it doesn't matter how much self-talk you do. It doesn't matter how much you believe in yourself consciously. Subconsciously, you're going to know when you get in that big moment, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it because you subconsciously do not believe. Instinctually, you're going to hesitate. You're going to have fear. You're going to panic. You're going to throw the puck away. So that's why you have to learn how to tap into the subconscious mind. With meditation, you're focusing and relaxing, and you can start to notice how when you dream, this is really what's happening is your brain is basically going to lower and lower brain waves. And that's really what we want to work on, getting lower and lower in our brain waves. And as we lower the brain waves, we start to be able to tap into that. You can have guided hypnosis sessions or programming sessions, as I call them, And that's what we do in our programs, is teach you how to use these and how to actually tap into that subconscious mind and practice it. Then you can use positive affirmation tapes. You can use things like just generally trying to speak positively to yourself, learning techniques of how to actually be a better self-coach, how to have better just general thinking strategies, different mental filters that you can apply to your mind. And those things start to program yourself subconsciously, right? They slip into the subconscious mind through just consciously saying it. You can use these programming sessions, and these just go straight down into the subconscious mind. And that's the trick. So what I want you to learn how to do out of this, or what I want you to at least understand, is first of all, you can just go on YouTube right after this and search meditations, mindfulness meditations. And this can teach you how to attack zone 1, is start to learn how to become mindful of that voice in your head. If you want to get a full system for this, you can reach out. There's links below where you can do our free training, where there's guided meditations. You can do our higher level paid programs. You can also apply to work with us, and we'll show you how our high level programs work. But fundamentally, that's all we're doing, is we basically need to learn these 2 steps. And then there's a lot of layers to how you actually effectively do it. So when we learn the mental program, we learn how to get into that kind of subconscious mind. And this is through allowing us to get into a dream state, slowly calming ourselves down. You can also look up hypnotic trance guided session, and it'll take you into a hypnotic trance. That'll teach you the basics of how to do it. If you want me to make a guided session like that, comment below and I'll make one. But this is what we're really working on, understanding how to program this subconscious mind so that the subconscious mind then influences you to just instantly do things, to not hesitate, to not panic. And so if you keep panicking with the puck, even though you have the ability, you do all the work, then what's really happening is you probably have an ego problem, but not the type of ego problem that most people talk about. Fundamentally, it's that you have a protective ego. You have an ego that's trying to keep you safe and protected. But what you need to do is learn how to expose yourself. This is a very common thing that people will tell you. They're saying like, yeah, just be confident, just trust yourself, just do it. But they never really explain why you do it. They don't explain to you a lot of this stuff. I never got taught the idea of what the ego is, how it's protecting you, why it's actually a huge problem, and why you need to just expose yourself to risk if you want to become a more expanded player, if you want to move beyond this protective mechanism. And so we have to accept that we're going to make mistakes. Mistakes are okay. And then what we need to learn is that if we can take risk, we will start to get rewards. And so that's how it's going to happen. But what we need to learn is that our brain is both consciously and subconsciously operating. And consciously, we can attack it with like self-talk. We can be more positive thinkers. We can think better and be a better coach to ourselves. But the problem is that we're not able to learn how to get into our subconscious mind and rewire our brain to think and feel the way we want. So how we do that is we need to learn how to program ourselves. All you need to do is learn to meditate, which is going to help you understand levels 1 and 2. If you want to go deeper with this, go to our free training. That's how this works. I wanted to give you a breakdown of how to do it. The action steps are go do meditations, go learn meditation, YouTube it, or ask us and we can make some more, or go do programming sessions and learn how to tap into your subconscious mind. That's how you rewire your brain for success and how to stop panicking. I hope that helps, and subscribe and like and all that stuff. And I appreciate you watching. All right, have a good one and go light it up.